It's time once again to go racing.
The pressure is really on now.
And it's pole position.
And it's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PSGL for something slightly different tonight. We have got 20 of the best and most experienced drivers in PSGL history, all the way back from 2010, back in the days of the Bridgestone tyres, together for one last night of action around the Bahrain International Circuit. And it will be slightly different because it's going to be like it was back in those days, in the daytime. My name is Luke Etheridge. Alongside me is Sam Thompson. Sam, how are you doing?
Good evening, everybody, and yes, this is probably going to be the most experienced grid you'll ever find in league racing for a while. You've got some people, like you said, Luke, that have come back from all the way from F1 2010 to join us tonight, including, of course, the first ever PSGL champion in Mr. Grumpy 1989. Sounds absolutely incredible, doesn't it? We were just talking before the stream went up about some of the things that you had back in F1 2010, some of the drivers, etc. And it's just quite mental, isn't it? When you think 11 years later and they're still opting to drive for the same league. And not only that, how far league racing has come, particularly now, in the last 2 or 3 years, ever since F1 esports has existed. But it's just mental, isn't it? We've got drivers on this grid that have come all the way back from 11 years. You've got drivers that are still racing today in the top tiers, the likes of Ash Best and CRG Gamer, which a lot of you may know. And you know, these guys are legends to PSGL, and they earned their spot in this legend social race tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I'd have known league racing was a thing back on F1 2010. Who knows what could have happened to me then? I somehow doubt I'd still be racing around now if anyone has seen it. That is the grid then of the drivers. You can see it is all as well realistic performance cars. So anyone who's familiar with PSGL might know that all the leagues are normally the equal performance. All the cars are the same, but not tonight. So JP Greenwood and Juho Finn in the Mercedes, in the fastest car on the game, and Ash Best and CRG Gamer, given the fact that they were in F1 in season 28. Who knows what league they'll be in season 29? You'll have to keep an eye on the placement preview stream on the Thursday and the Twitter feed on Friday to find that one out. They are racing in the slowest car, and daytime Bahrain is going to be an absolute killer on those tyres.
Yeah, and of course, with the game obviously allowing this as well, like they allow you to change the day of the time of day, which is very good to actually have that. And you know, it's great that they've gone back to this, because obviously back in 2010 when PSGL first started, it was daytime races in Bahrain. But as you said, the tyres will be scorching hot tonight. And I can't wait to see how the whole strategy plays and whether it'll actually affect how the usual strategy at Bahrain is, and maybe change how drivers pick their strategy tonight as well.
Yeah, it will be, and also getting used to slightly different performing cars. The multiplayer car is slightly different today. It's sort of in the equal range to where the Mercedes and the Red Bull will be. Getting used to the different weather conditions and maybe just getting used to racing. Again, some of these drivers haven't really league raced since well, definitely not for quite a few years with some of them. For example, Big C, the most successful driver on this grid, 7 drivers championships, 8 constructors championship, did win his last race in PSGL way back in season 26 in the F2 tier around the Brazilian Grand Prix. So it'll be interesting to see how he does tonight in the Alfa Romeo. Again, we've already been through some of the historic names. You've got Lordy coming back, he's won constructors championships. Greeny, a man who did over 100 races, yet to win an equal performance one. Will he win one with the realistic performance tonight? We've got no real idea because of the different performance cars, because it is a new game as well, and a lot of these drivers we haven't seen for a while, we've got no real idea what the pecking order is going to look like. This is fantastic. If only real F1 was like this.
No, we don't, and I wonder if we'll have some sort of classical league racing chaos. Remember back in the days before esports really was around, if you found some old clips of like league racing back on F1 2016 or something, and you could even probably see the chaos in like PSGL's like promotional video, like Drive to Survive style video the other day. And you know, that's what I mean. You'll have these sort of moments tonight. You'll have these moments of where things are going to be completely different. Things are just going to be chaotic, I reckon, tonight. Like, it's just going to happen. You got people who are from like the, you know, who are in the lower tiers of PSGL, of course, from the previous game, like theoretically shouldn't be challenging people like Big C Gamer and Ashbest, but because of the realistic performance, they're all allowed to come together, and anyone can win tonight. Anything happens tonight, basically.
Yeah, anything can happen in Formula 1, and it usually does. Standard PSGL format, though, is going to be a short qualifying, followed by a 50% distance race, so 29 laps of this circuit. I think we have had a few problems getting the last few drivers in, so hopefully it won't be too long before we get on the way. That is the last thing that some of these drivers would want. Bahrain, quite a challenging circuit as well, especially on this game. I have seen a few drivers saying they have had trouble with the slightly different handling model on this game and having to adjust the brake bias a lot more. Expect to see quite a few lockups, quite a few mistakes maybe in qualifying until the drivers get used to things, and probably a few different strategies as well. It wouldn't surprise me if we see some people just go for the two-stop, all-out blast, and just have some fun.
Yeah, well, of course, I reckon, well, this is what this whole event is about, let's be honest. It's not going to be a big sweat fest or anything. It's not going to be, you know, this driver has practiced for 7 hours, this driver's practiced for 6 hours. These guys are just coming in for a bit of fun tonight and everything, and just to celebrate the success of PSGL, because it's gone on for so long now, and it's not going to stop anytime soon, is it? That's the thing we do know. It's not going to stop anytime soon, but these guys, they are the pecking order of experience, of, you know, champions, and just people who everyone knows from PSGL.
Yeah, and also a few drivers that I have raced against in some of the lower tiers now, so probably not practicing as much as they used to. The likes of Ice Demon, Mr. Grumpy, I know Dino, Jay Tyler as well, Juho, drivers who originally were at the top of the game and are now in the lower tiers, and I think it just shows how league racing has grown. We have got like some of the creme de la creme of PSGL here. Ashbest, youngest ever PSGL champion, as we said, still in F1. CRG Gamer as well, both of those drivers picking up podiums in F1 last year. I think this is going to be absolutely fantastic. But as Dan Field is telling us, back on F1 2010, I think only 12 player lobbies were allowed, and you know what, I tend to agree with him. I think I could just about remember trying to league race on that game. I think, well, race online, I think I was pretty good around Valencia for some reason. So if F1 Codemasters are listening and you ever fancy bringing back a classic track, that might be one that suits me. I don't think that'll be the most popular choice though. Anyway, we are about to get underway for the qualifying session, heading to what is unsurprisingly a very sunny Bahrain International Circuit. Floodlights are still on, but I don't think the drivers will be needing them, and all the cars just waiting in the pit lane, although we have got someone just about to head out now then, who is going to be the first driver to take on the track, and it is going to be Ashbest in the Williams.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting lap, of course, because, again, this is realistic cars, isn't it? So, for Ashbest, he's got to adapt quickly to what is a realistic performance Williams, which he probably isn't used to, since, of course, he's still league racing, you know, on the weekly sort of thing. He still league races this game, and I mean, because they'll obviously be using equal performance as much as possible to practice for their league races, particularly these guys near the top of PSGL still, like Ashbest. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt as well to the lower end cars, where they perhaps haven't been playing them a lot, they haven't been looking into them a lot or anything, so expect to see a few mistakes from these drivers, and perhaps, I don't know, a bit of frustration when driving from these drivers, particularly in the Williams, Haas, or even Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I think it could just take a few laps for the drivers to get used to them. You can see we've got a few drivers going out on the medium tyres. Not a bad idea whatsoever. Given how hot the track temperature is going to be. We said sometimes it's borderline with the one stop in normal conditions on this game when it's night time. The sun beating down on this circuit is going to make it all the more so difficult. And we saw points for Williams the other day. Who knows? Maybe the Williams drivers can spring a surprise in Ash and CRG Gamer. Anyway, here he is on his hot lap around this Bahrain International Circuit, first used in 2004, the kilometre-long main straight. He's got a car just pulling out the pit lane. That is Mr. Grumpy, who gets well out of the way. Just a bit wide of the apex for turn 1 there for Ash. That's going to compromise him slightly from 2 and 3 all the way up the hill. DRS wasn't even on F1 2010 when PSGL was first around, and not all the cars managed to have KERS as well back in those days. Nice and clean though through turn 4, 28.1 actually for the first sector, just hopping over those curbs ever so slightly. Might need to be a bit careful of that, especially once the tyres start to wear later on in the race. And nice and clean through the hairpin there at the bottom of the hill of turn number 8, 9 and 10. Exceptionally tricky in these cars. Won't be surprised to see a bit of a lock-up, but Ash, ever the experienced man, keeps it nice and clean. DRS open. Again, one of 3 DRS zones on this track, on this back straight along into turn 10. Going over to the right-hand side as much as you dare to open up the corner into turn 11. These soft tyres are already starting to be getting very hot right now into 12 and 13. This double right-hander to finish off the second sector. 65.8 seconds for the first 2 sectors. Nice and clean through there. Now it's just all about getting it right into the final 2 corners. Double apex right-hander of 14 and 15. Take a bit of a later apex here. Try and get on the accelerator as early as possible. Ash Best on the throttle then in the Williams. Very nice lap from the Williams driver. 127.517 is the benchmark that he has set. Let's go on board with Greeny then. He's on the medium tyres in the Alfa Romeo, so you would expect him to be a bit slower.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, Greeny on the mediums could be a bit slower, but you never know. Greeny could potentially come out with an absolute stonking lap, and we could be completely misjudgmental of the Williams, as we see Game Freaker already set a pretty blistering lap of 26.6. So we're already getting to that stage, and Greeny does come across a 28.2. So, you know, as you said, on the medium tyres, he was going to be slower, but Powdy in the Ferrari setting a 26.5. So the 26s look to be around the sort of benchmark time at the moment, but we're still waiting for the likes of Big C to set his laps. CC Brain, obviously one of the drivers who still is in the higher tiers in PSGL. CRG Gamer, of course, as well, and a few others as well who will be looking to set their laps. There's one person who I'm interested by because he's in the AlphaTauri tonight, and that is Lickleblocks. Arguably a driver that relatively recently is still kind of near the top tiers of PSGL. You could argue he was in PSGL F3, I think, most recently, back on F1 2020. I think he did 1 season in that division, and he was quite competitive. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how he does tonight, because he is in a car that arguably is far superior to those around him who perhaps is on his pace, such as Big C, etc., who are in the Alfa Romeo. So going to be interested to see how he does tonight as well in that AlphaTauri, which seems like it could be a superior car, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, well, let's see how he is doing then. He's on his hot lap at the moment. We've got yellow flags as drivers are just heading back to the pits. It's Powdy, Game Freaker, and Sam Bam Kid. And quite a big gap to CC Brain, Ash Best in 5th. Then it is those on the medium tyres, AMS, Greeny, Lordy, and Mr. Grumpy. We have had a late change as well. Cliffy was unable to make it tonight, so he has been replaced by Bugatti in the Haas, who invalidated a lap early on, perhaps unsurprisingly, driving that Haas on very little practice, I imagine, with the realistic cars. Little blocks then, just with a bit of traffic ahead of him. That is CC Brain, who will get well out of the way. Do not want to be giving anyone a slipstream. They'll be a bit more relaxed with that tonight, but in the normal PSGL leagues, no slipstreams allowed, of course. Little blocks not doing a bad job either. 2-time race winner in the top tier, and as you said, Sam, has raced in some of the higher tiers fairly recently as well, so could be one to watch tonight. 65 seconds through that first sector. Second sector, you can just see the rears starting to go away as he came through turn number 13 into the final couple of corners then for him. Let's see what he can do. His teammate Lordy at the moment did a 127.8 on a set of the mediums, and Lickle Blocks gets it wrong out the final corner slightly and decides, rather than putting another lap on those tyres, decides to come into the pits. So few cars finding it quite difficult at the moment, but those times from Powdy, Game Freaker, and Sam Bam Kid not looking bad whatsoever.
Yeah, not at all. The not the Alpha Tauri, it's the Alpines. Sorry, looking fairly quick up there in second and third place, but no one's still quicker than Paldi in that Ferrari, which is pretty good to see. And it's going to be interesting to see what his teammate, who's called Taimur Azim, but many people know him more as Ugi Azim from PSGL. He's obviously changed his PSN name recently. So that's if you're wondering if he wanted to be more identifiable, I suppose. But he's in the Ferrari tonight with Paldi. He's not on a current lap, I don't think, at the moment. I think he's backed out of one. And I think everyone now is really in the pits or on in laps at the moment. So interesting first sort of times that have come in. There's something that we have noticed about the Williams. It does seem pretty slow for Ash Best at the moment, and also for CC Brain as well in the Haas. So just because these drivers are near the top of the field does not mean they're going to be near the top of this qualifying. I can tell you that now.
Yeah, definitely. It could be very interesting indeed. They are allowed to pick 3 setups as well, I believe, tonight. VRT George has just asked if they're running presets. I think there was a complete free choice of setups, so we'll have to wait and see who's managed to get the best setup, because just picking the one for the multiplayer car might work for those towards the top of the field. Don't think it's going to work for those further back in the Haas and Williams. You might need to put a bit more downforce on if you want to get them same cornering speeds. On board then with JP Greenwood on a set of the medium tyres. Fastest car on the mediums at the moment was Grumpy on a 127.546, and Greenwood, we've seen that so often over the years in PSGL and many other leagues, coming around turn 12. Very easy to get it wrong there. Didn't even hit the curb, which is normally where you see drivers get it wrong through there. It's just that lack of rear downforce on this game catching him out, and I doubt he'll be the only one to do that tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this game. There's a lot of things that have changed. The whole handling model seems to have changed, and the curbs as well are relatively deadly. But you know, as we just seen there, even in a Mercedes, which you'd expect to have, you know, the top grip through these corners, it's very easy to lose that rear end, and that rear end tends to go. And maybe that's also a sign of early things with the whole with the track being in the daylight, of course, because the temperatures will be higher, and at that point through Sector 3, the tyres will be absolutely scorching hot, and of course would be probably at braking point and will be screaming to go, and that's probably what's happened. But we have a new pole sitter currently at the moment, as Jay Tyler goes to the top on a 26.4. So times are coming down now, and they will expect to come down obviously during the session, but they're coming down now, and we're still waiting for around several people to finish their laps, 6 people to be precise.
Yeah, the CTI Steeman, he's retired from the session. I know he enjoys starting from the back. Can't get involved in any Valtteri Bottas-induced lap 1 shenanigans that way, so might not be the worst idea heading into turn 1. On board then with Paldi, 8 minutes 20 remaining in this session. Ferrari looking good at second and third at this moment in time. He's a 10th down coming through sector 2, so needs to absolutely nail these final 3 corners if he wants to retake that pole position. Still the Ferraris and the Alpines, you've got to say, from this, look like very decent cars on this game in realistic performance. Second and third for the Ferraris, 4th and 5th for the Alpines at this moment in time. Some yellow flag there as a car pulls into the pits. Paldi did gain a bit of time in that final sector, not enough though to go fastest, stays in second place. On board with Game Freaker then, let's see what he can do in that Alpine, as we have got a retirement, and that is AMS 91, and I think that is out on track somewhere. We'll just try and get on board with Greeny and see where that is. I think he's got it wrong just coming into turn 8, and you do see that happen quite often as well. That's another one where through 7, losing the car can easily send you off towards the wall. Looks like that's what's happened to the McLaren driver.
Oh yeah, most certainly that's happened. That's what's happened to the McLaren driver. He's gone through that chicane or S section at Bahrain, and then on the exit there's that curb on the outside. You hit onto it, and then sometimes it just spins you out. You've had the words of RNG or, you know, random sort of moments with the curbs on this game. You've heard that quite a lot, particularly from the esports drivers, and you know, it catches out the esports drivers who find the limit. It catches out the drivers who are even playing it casually as well. But you know, it is a curb that is quite difficult to master, and sometimes it goes wrong, and it can go very wrong when it does go wrong. And you know, as AMS has just experienced, he's experienced the worst from worse. Really, he's just been sent into the barrier, and you know, there's no recovery from that.
Yeah, very good lap from Greeny. First one that he's done on the soft tyres, finding 1.4 seconds then. Puts him ahead of his teammate Big C, Alfa Romeo 6th and 7th at the moment, as Big C has now retired from the session. And that is coming out of, I think, turn number 13. That's not normally a place where you do see the drivers losing the car, but Big C just finding it a bit difficult there. Lordy on board with him then in the Alpha Tauri. Let's see what he can do. Nice and clean into the final couple of corners. Not long to go now, and it is J. Tyler Powdy, Game Freaker, your top three, with a third of the session remaining. Although, as I say that, Lordy, 1.4 seconds he finds on that set of the soft tyres, goes up into second. So, could be some big improvements from those, of course, who did start on the medium tyres. So, maybe Mr. Grumpy and Lickleblock's not looking too bad at the moment.
Yeah, true, and I'm wondering how drivers are going to take this, actually, because the drivers in the top 10, they're going to be on the soft tyres, and, you know, soft tyres are definitely not favourable at Bahrain, are they? Like, no one likes to use the soft tyres in Bahrain, so I'm wondering if a few drivers are perhaps just trying to get that 11th place spot or outside the top 10 and just do that alternative strategy a bit. I'm sure there are drivers actually going for it, which is great to see, but I'm sure some drivers are perhaps being a little bit more conservative and just going for that 11th place because they know they will have fresh medium tyres off the start, or they could even start on the hards and try to do that alternative strategy because, you know, they're all going to be having a casual fun race, but obviously they would want a win. Every driver loves a win. It doesn't matter whether it's casual or whether it is in sort of like a, you know, competitive race or anything. These drivers love to win, and, you know, that's why they've been here for so long, because they love competing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people play this game in qualifying towards the final minutes, whether they will go just for the outside, the top 10, or whether they will actually go full on, full send, and try and get that pole position.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see indeed. I think CRG Gamers just coming around, maybe on another lap here, maybe into the pits. 16th at the moment on that set of the medium tyres. His teammate Ash Best in 12 at the moment, so proving the Williams is quite a difficult car to handle on this game, and I don't think that really surprises anyone as Gamer dives into the pits. So J. Tyler, Lordy, Powdy, Mr. Grumpy, Game Freaker, Jake, Uguazine, Zambam Kid, Greenie, and CC Brain, your top 10 at this moment in time. And look how close it is. You'd think maybe, being realistic performance, yes, we have tried to put the faster drivers in the slower cars, it wouldn't be that close, but you can see that at the top 8 drivers separated by 0.2 of a second. This looks like it is going to be an absolutely fascinating race, as most of the cars are just heading back towards their pits for the final laps. I think I'd be wanting to start on a harder set of tyres or a bit further back. The tyre wear is going to be absolutely disgusting for those, I think, that are starting on the soft tyres in this race.
Yeah, I don't think it's not just that, obviously. We've already seen it. It looks like the tyre temps become scorchingly hot very quickly in these light conditions. Like, this is in the middle of the day for Bahrain, so you've got to think of the temperatures the track will be compared to, obviously, in the evening when the sun has set. So I think that's just going to play an immediate factor, really, of how good the softs actually are. The wear is going to be much higher going into the race than what you would in a night setting Bahrain, of course, and, you know, obviously that will contribute to how early guys pit stop. But not only that, you've got to think these are realistic cars as well, so tyre wear is going to be different for all of them. If you're in the Mercedes, the tyre wear is likely to be better than what the tyre wear is for, say, like a Williams or, you know, even a McLaren. The tyre wear is probably going to be slightly worse, and obviously the handling as well, when that tyre wear does creep up a bit, is going to be significantly worse.
Yeah, definitely. Ugo Azim, I think he had a slight connection glitch there. He just seemed to teleport into the pit lane, or whether that's Ferrari trying some interesting tactics once again. Not long to go now, 2 minutes 15 left in this session. A lot of cars are heading out onto their final outlaps, trying to get that best possible grid position. You've got the two Hasses, as we've seen quite often in 2021, in 2020, and in quite a few seasons, getting very close to each other out on track there, which I'm sure get Gunter Steiner feeling a bit stressed. But let's see what Greenie can do. First driver then to head out for their final hot laps then, with quite a lot of traffic ahead of him. Now, I suppose when you do this, yes, you do get a second opportunity if you make a mistake on your lap. But now we're seeing the problem for Greenie. He's just got all these cars on an outlap, and if they don't get out of the way of him, that could cause him problems, and he will be stuck in the dirty air of Juho through these corners.
Yeah, that's a very difficult place to actually get stuck up against. You know how frustrated he is there. You know, he's already just pulled to the side just to say no. And he's got himself a 5-place grid penalty from that as well. And that's not nice from Greeny there. He's just decided to take him out, I suppose, which is not great from Greeny there. Not a great showing, but, you know, frustration's frustration. And it's a social race after all, isn't it? So it's not like it's the actual thing, but yeah, probably not the best thing from Greeny, but you could probably hear his frustration at the end of the day, because that's completely ruined the lap time, which perhaps has really infuriated. But Sambam Kid is on a lap. I think he's the next further one up there, and Greeny's actually disqualified for going the wrong way. And he's kind of ruined Sambam Kid's lap as well, I think, from that. So, yeah, interesting end to qualifying for some people.
Yeah, not exactly covered himself with glory there. Has Greeny managed to, as we said, get to win an equal performance race, and he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go some to win this realistic performance race as well. Last to first in the Alfa Romeo is going to be a bit of a challenge. Let's see what Sambam Kid can do, though. He's currently in 8th place, less than a 10th behind his teammate. Doesn't look like this is going to be an improvement either. Quite a long way off in 8th. CC Brain has retired from the session. That is another car getting it wrong, coming through turn 7 and finding that barrier on the outside of turn 8 as we go on board with Bugatti, just going through that section of the track as well. He is in 16th place. Not long to go then. Checkered flag will be coming out any moment now. And I think it's going to be Jay Tyler who's going to be the first driver to finish his lap, and he's going even faster still. 2 tenths up coming into the final couple of corners.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be snatching his way to pole position. Obviously, a lot of drivers are still yet to finish, but that's going to be one big lap to beat at 126.1. You'll be looking really in PSGL. You'll be looking at these leagues that Jay Tyler is supposed to be in. You'll be looking only round a second quicker, not even that, a little bit less as Powdy also with a 26.2. So the times are definitely starting to come down now. And, you know, more interestingly, it's the midfield cars that seem to be on top. The top cars of Mercedes, well, Mercedes particularly, is absolutely nowhere. The Red Bull is close as, oh, I say that, look who's on pole. It is the first ever PSGL champion, Mr. Grumpy, who's got himself to pole position. There's still cars to cross the line, but I don't think anyone looks like they're improving at the moment.
No, Jake, he hasn't improved his teammate, so he stays in 6th position. Ashbest is finding some time, gets himself up into 11th. That alternate strategy pole position for now. I don't know if there's too many more cars out on track. Dino coming through the final corner in the Aston Martin, way down in 17th at the moment. This is going to bump him up the order on those soft tyres. Goes into 9th, knocks Big C out of the top 10. I'm sure the head of PSGL will be quite relieved, actually, that he's been knocked out of that 10th place. I think we've just got JP Greenwood coming up into the pits then. And that is it for everyone. And it is the original champion way back in Season 1. At the start of Season 29, he is on pole position. Mr. Grumpy, 126.051. J. Tyler Powdy, not too far behind, though. It is all set up to be a fantastic race, Sam.
I wasn't expecting this. Like, you go into this sort of thing, you're kind of thinking of who could be at the top, who may not be at the top, and what poetry is it that the first ever PSGL champion has got himself, he's bagged himself pole position in this Legends race. It just shows, doesn't it? You know, you could be a legend for a long time and not receive that representation. And finally in this Legends race that PSGL have organised, he takes pole position. It's absolutely brilliant to see. And, you know, Jack Tyler as well, or Jay Tyler as he's known here, in 2nd place. He looks very quick. Powdy as well looking quick. And, you know, it's just like a normal social race or normal league race. The times seem to be relatively quite close together. A lot of people in the 126s there, and this should be on for a real thriller. And, you know, we've seen it already from Greeny. We're in for some chaos by the looks of things.
Yeah, definitely. Wilson Hughes, reigning PSGL Season 28 and Season 29 champion, who won the social race last night. His final race on F1 on the PS4. Asking why is it in the day? Because Bahrain used to be in the day. In fact, I think, if I remember rightly, back in 2010, I think Bahrain was the first race of the season, but they used that god-awful endurance layout, which took about 30 seconds longer and killed the second sector. So thankfully, we don't have that on this game, as we are just waiting for the lobby to finish. Apparently, Ugi Azim's still going around on the circuit, which I do doubt ever so slightly. But it is Mr. Grumpy on pole position. Jay Tyler in 2nd, Powdy 3rd, Sandman Kid in 4th, Game Freaker 5th, Lordy, Jake, Ugi Dino, and CC Brain will round out the top 10. Big C in 11th. He'll be on the alternate strategy, as well Ash Best, Bugatti, CRG Gamer, Liquor Blocks, AMS. 2 Mercedes are 17th and 18th. Not something you see too often. CTI Steeman didn't set a time. And Greeny got himself disqualified, of course.
Yeah. At least we've been able to get a rundown of the grid. Sometimes it's not the case, but yeah, we've got some people in here who are champions, who are previous champions of PSGL. Gamer, not Gamer, he wasn't a champion, he was a runner-up, but Ashbest, youngest champion, Big C, the most decorated PSGL champion, both together. And of course some others as well in there who have won previous PSGL championships and won previous PSGL races as well. So, you know, there's a lot of drivers all mixed up. Drivers at the front that have won races, drivers at the back have won races, and you know, some drivers will be here with the same challenge, some will have different challenges, and I think we're going to question really, because we've got some people here who are real originals of league racing, people who have been around for a long time, and you've got some people here who have kind of adapted themselves into the modern sort of league racing, the competitive league racing. Before, obviously, it was just all more casual sort of thing beforehand. But yeah, after all that, I think we have finally loaded out of the thing, and we've actually got the standings thing about to come up. So, yep, GG Codemasters, we've got another glitch there. It took a while, but well, we're in for a very exciting race. That's literally all you can really say. And most of the people in the top 10, they're in midfield cars. The only one from a backmarker car, well, from real life anyway, would be CC Brain in the Haas, and all the rest, surprisingly, outside the top 10.
Yeah, those that are in the backmarker cars, those drivers who are in the equal performance would obviously be the fastest, do seem to be struggling. So, just running through the grid again, Mr. Grumpy, Tyler, Powdy, Sambam Kid, Game Freak Alordi, Jake, Oogie, Dino, CC Brain, Big C, Ash, Bugatti, Gamer, Liquor Blocks, AMS, Greenwood, Juho, Ice Demon, and Greeny. They are the 20 cars that will be taking us into this race. Then, as we've already said, who knows what to expect. 29 laps, realistic performance, drivers trying to get used to the cars, trying to get used to the fact that it's daytime in Bahrain, which is definitely not something they'll have done too often. Could be a big mix of strategies here. Could well be one of those races like we enjoy in real life F1, where you don't really know until the final couple of laps which way it's going to go, and this should be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it for the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend. We had no clue who was going to win. 10 laps to go. You're thinking, is it going to be Ocon, Hamilton? Could Vettel do something? You know, it's going to be one of those sort of races where chaos is just going to ensue. And, you know, in the chat, I'm sure people will be... we're going to ask the question, of course, who do you think is going to win this race? Because there are so many different candidates you can think about, and there's so many different factors as well to consider when it comes to who will be winning this race. Because people know how to win on this grid, but people also know how to lose. They've got such experience, such knowledge, and, well, because they're all in different performance cars and everything as well, they're all going to have different experiences this race, and that's why it could be just so mental to a normal league race.
Yeah, this could be completely different. It's going to be one of the last tries as well to really just get themselves out there and see what they can do on this game before the placements around the Bahrain International Circuit. 5.412 kilometres, 3.362 miles, 15 turns, 3 DRS zones in the daytime. We've already seen some tricky corners, turn 8 and turn 13, some of those where you will see drivers make a few mistakes, and those are the tyres that everyone is on. No surprises outside the top 10 then. No one on the softs, a mixture of mediums and hards. Big C, Bugatti, Liquor Blocks, AMS and Juho going for the mediums. Ash, Gamer, Greenwood and the two at the back, Ice Demon and Greeny LFC going for the hard tyres. And I think it says a lot that Ash Best, after finishing in 12th, said front row of the grid. He's very happy to be starting in that 12th position.
Front row of the grid, yeah. I mean, that's what some people would think about it, because these soft tyres will melt. They've melted in the qualifying laps, and the actual thing, you'll probably see these guys on the softs pit very, very early. Expect early pit stops for them, maybe even around lap 5 for their earliest pit stop, and you know, maybe even lap 1. You just never know. And this is what the disadvantage being inside the top 10 is that you've got to start on these soft tyres. Everyone outside have got the choice to actually perfect and make their own strategies, and well, they're going for medium hard or hard medium most certainly. unless they go for hard soft, which would be an absolutely incredible strategy if they do pull it off, because these soft tyres, they're not going to last long, are they?
No, they're not. And do we dare make any predictions for the race victory?
I mean, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Because anyone can be absolutely anywhere here. It could be absolute chaos. So if I'm going to make a prediction for a winner, I'm going to give it to Mr. Grumpy. I think he's going to get away well. He's in this Red Bull. He's got himself the pole position. And although what I said and everything, I think he is capable of making the strategy work and possibly doing a one-stop.
Yeah, we'll have to see. You're going for actual pole position. I'm going to go for alternate strategy pole position. I think crashing out and qualifying 11th might just be a blessing in disguise for Big C, who did win his last PSGL race. Let's not forget, at the end of season 26. But the lights are coming on here to get this Legend Social underway. 5 lights at Bahrain. They go out and we are racing. One of the starts, like it looks like Powley's got a pretty decent start there. Actually, from 3rd on the grid, he is shooting up. He's going to try and challenge Mr. Grumpy all the way around the outside into turn 1. And he has taken the lead. It is Powley into the lead. Just runs wide ever so slightly. And that's allowed Grumpy to get a fantastic run. Jay Tyler all over the back of the Ferrari. The 2 Alpines are there as well. Some battles further back as well. Ugi Azim seems to have dropped back. I'm not sure if he's been able to get back in the session as Jay Tyler's trying to sling one up the inside of Powley in these early stages. Just has to back off. You've got all sorts of battling going off. Ash Best and Dino going side by side. Ash has shot up the field as Dino off the circuit there in the background. Not sure if there was any contact. And Bugatti's going to send one up the inside of the Williams on those medium tyres. Who's going to win the drag race coming out of the corner into turn 9? Ash Best on the inside, Bugatti on the outside. This is going to be very tight indeed. We saw drivers make contact in F2 last year. I think it was Schumacher and Eilert came together there, but it is Bugatti who just gets that position for now, as Jake very close to CC Brain. So both Hassers having a very interesting first lap. But just look at that lead from Mr. Grumpy. It's like watching Sebastian Vettel back in the Red Bull days. 1.5 seconds ahead at the end of lap 1. Not a bad start whatsoever for the Red Bull.
What a start for absolutely everyone. Like we said about chaos in this race, and you know, we haven't seen much. The greatest thing is that we haven't seen any retirements. We haven't seen anyone completely out of it from this field. They've been battling side by side for the whole lap, and I do have to say, what a move it was from Bugatti. He sent it very much committed on Ash around the outside of turn 10, and that's beautiful. He got on the traction early and got past the Williams driver, and Bugatti is still in, I believe, 9th place. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this timing table hasn't exactly helped me here at the moment. But yeah, like you said, what a start from Mr. Grumpy. He's absolutely cleared off into the distance away from Jay Tyler in 2nd place now. Well, I think he's in 2nd place, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, there's some battles going on further back. Big C using a bit of ERS and the medium tyres to get a good run out of turn 2 and 3 and get ahead of CRG Gamer. So he is now the Alfa Romeo meet in the Williams sandwich. They are 10th, 11th and 12th at the moment, as Connor just has a bit of a slide on that set of medium tyres. But yeah, the Haas cars not having a bad start, as Sambam Kid's gone very deep there, made a bit of contact with CC Brain. The Haas drivers got through. Jake not close enough to take advantage of that. So it is all kicking off in this first lap. We haven't had any retirements. We did see Dino have a bit of contact, we think, with Ash Best earlier on, and Ugi Azim has left the session. Hopefully, though, he will be able to get back in and carry on in this race. It would be a shame if we lost anyone this early on. DRS will be activated next time around. First time they'll be able to use it on that straight coming out of turn 2 and 3 into turn 4. So expect to see quite a lot of slipstream in there. The lead car, though, still doesn't have to worry about that. Mr. Grumpy still in the lead, just over a second at the moment. And Jay Tyler pulling away from Lordy and Powdy. Those front 4 cars, in fact the front 5 cars you could say, quite spread out, as Sambam Kid's going to have a go at CC Brain here.
Yeah, I think people are just adjusting into the race now, of course, because everyone's had a bit of an interesting race, like a mixed performance at the start of the race. Obviously, some of the medium tyre drivers of Ash Best, like, you know, they've maintained position, but they've moved up. They've had a good start. Big C hasn't actually had the greatest of starts, if you think about it, losing positions to Bugatti and Ash Best there. Lickle Blocks gets past Gamer, so Gamer starting to, well, to be honest with you, it's probably the fact that he's on the hard tyres, so the mediums are probably the better to be on in this early stage, so he wouldn't fuss too much at the moment. The action is all really in the midfield. Ironic, because that's like real life, and these are real life performance cars, so fairly ironic to real life F1. But at the front, Grumpy's just controlling it at the moment. He's not looking under pressure from Jay Tyler, and neither is Jay Tyler from Lordy, and then Powdy behind. Powdy is the first one that looks like a bit under pressure, who has Game Freaker behind him, but at the front, a little bit of gaps, but in the midfield is where all the action is going down at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Game Freaker's really closed onto the back of Powdy on this gap, on this lap. I just wonder if he's starting to go through his soft tyres a bit more in that Ferrari. Will we see any of them dive onto the pits in this lap? JP Greenwood had a spin coming out of turn 1 on the last lap. He was able to continue, though, without any damage. Here we are then, on board then with Game Freaker. The Ferrari's going to have to go defensive very early from the Alpine, and it's not going to make one iota of difference. Straight down the inside goes the Alpine of Game Freaker very comfortably into 4th place as Big C and Ash Best are battling further back as well. Lickleblock's trying to get involved in this. He might get all the way around the outside of Ash Best, who's going to lose 2 places in the space of 2 corners here. There's contact. Ash goes round. Thankfully, ghosting has been added to the F1 game since F1 2010 when PSGL started, and Ash Best is able to continue with a bit more flat-spotted tyres than he had earlier on. He is down into 19th place, and Lickleblock's also having a mistake in all of that. He was the one who made contact with Ash. He's lost a place, well, quite a few places. He is down into 17th, so a shame for them. But Big C and CRG Gamer, the big winners out of that. CRG Gamer now the lead car on the hard tyres. And it does seem on this game that the hard tyres, compared to F1 2020, do take a few more laps to heat up.
Yeah, of course, and let's remind ourselves that these are realistic cars as well, so Ashbest probably a little naive on the throttle there as he got on the exit of the corner. He's got to defend against Lickleblock, but he hasn't got that equal chance to get on the throttle because that Williams obviously is going to be worse than that AlphaTauri. And let's not forget, he's on the hard tyres and Lickle is on the medium, so those obviously contributed to what happened. And like you just said, it takes a long time for these hard tyres to really warm up compared to the mediums and the softs. The softs take it almost immediately. Mediums takes about half a lap. For the hards, it'll take about a lap or 2 to get them going. And even when they get going, they are still quite difficult to maintain and get them on the right sort of grip level that you would like, of course. But again, gaps seeming to be around, but I do think there'll be some overtakes very soon. But yeah, chaos there for Ash Best. Unfortunately, he's had to go into the pits. He may have picked up a little bit of damage, or is he just trying something completely different in this race?
Yeah, he must have picked up a bit of damage as AMS has a massive slide coming out of turn 4 there. He's just got ahead of CRG Gamer up into 11th place, was all over the show, and now giving Gamer just a slight hint of trying to get back past him. Very difficult to overtake here, apart from really into turn 1 and into turn 4. Anywhere else, you're having to rely on a mistake from the car in front. And talking of a mistake from the car in front, that's Big C, who's gone around at turn 10 and gets himself a very harsh 3-second time penalty for corner cutting.
Yeah, well, your driver who you predicted to win now, kind of damage undone, as damage is a bit done there. But to be honest with you, again, that's one of the corners where you would expect mistakes to happen, of course, because obviously the way the locking up works in this game, you could easily lock the rear tyres up. So I think it's Lickleblock who has spun again. So both him and Ashpest probably have had races to forget, to be honest. But yeah, Big C surprisingly spinning, but again, locking up the rears is very easy at that corner. And he's now just behind his teammate Greeny. I wonder if they'll start working together to try and move up the field. They've got Gamer ahead of them, who seems to have lost a bit more time to AMS now, as AMS would probably like to pull away in the McLaren.
Yeah, we've had the first few pit stops as well. Game Freaker, Powdy and CC Brain all coming in for the medium tyres. That says to me that is a surefire 2-stop strategy. They are trying something completely different here, and they're going to have to try and fight their way up the field. They have got Lickleblock directly ahead of them. Then they have got a bit of a gap to CTI Street Demon and JP Greenwood, who are on the hard tyres, so will be staying out quite a bit longer. On board here with Greenius, we have got another yellow flag there. Not sure who that is, and that is Dino, who is around in the Aston Martin. Both Aston Martins seem to be fairly close together out on track at all times, and when they split up, seems to be one of them makes a mistake, and Dino, he'll have overheated those soft tyres. Surely he'll be coming in this lap to get rid of them. Out in front, though, it is still Mr. Grumpy. Jay Tyler's closed in a tiny bit, But Grumpy just keeping that gap at about 8-9 tenths of a second, looking very comfortable. You'd imagine, though, these front five have got to react to the pit stops of Game Freaker, Powdy and CC Brain.
Yeah, I most certainly would have thought so. And Grumpy, yep, there he comes into the pits. I think everyone's going to come in now, except for Lordy. Lordy doesn't come in. Is Sambam Kid thinking about it? Yes, he is. And Jake Warrior stays out as well. So, 2 drivers going on there on the soft tyres. And Jay Tyler and Mr. Grumpy opting not to. And where they're going to come out, I reckon. I would have thought they would be sticking ahead. But I do think Lordy could be under threat from Game Freaker. Because this undercut is going to be insane on these medium tyres compared to the softs now, I do reckon. So, a little bit of a interesting strategy from Lordy and Jake Warrior, or Jake W. Comms, of course. And yeah, Game Freak has just got past Lickle, so very interested to see where they're going to be now. But they've slotted in 3 seconds behind Jay Tyler, which is probably similar to where they were before. So just intriguing to see where the rest of them will be.
Yeah, where Mr. Grumpy is in the middle of a massive battle here. Juho's tapped the back of Ice Demon. That sent him round, and that has allowed Grumpy to get ahead of them. Oh, there's contact between Grumpy and Ice Demon there. Grumpy's gone for the hard tyres. The other drivers who've come into the pit have gone for the medium, so maybe, just maybe, Mr. Grumpy's going to try and stretch those hards until the end of this race, and if so, he's going to have to be very careful, and this might be a chance for Jay Tyler to get that move done. They are the lead cars out of those that have pitted then, as we'll just get the gap up to the leaders at the moment. You can see 21.5 seconds between Lordy and Mr. Grumpy at the moment, and I think they'll be glad that they've managed to get those cars out of the way. Only driver with a penalty at the moment is Big C with 3 seconds, as the lead cars are just coming up to the pit lane now. And there we go, Jake comes into the pit. Lordy is carrying on. He is doing a supreme job on those soft tyres at the moment, just to try to get them to last. Says to me he's going to be another one going for that one stop.
Oh yeah, most certainly. I would think this would be quite ridiculous if you went for a 2-stop now. As Jake comes in for the hard tyres, and there we go. Jay Tyler gets past Mr. Grumpy. For Jay Tyler now, it's all about what he can do on this medium tyres. This set is going to be so important because he will most certainly have to pit again, and obviously Mr. Grumpy will be looking to go to the end on these hard tyres now. So for Jay Tyler, it is so important he makes the most of this medium stint to set him out nicely for that last stint towards the end of the race. And you know, as we've seen a few drivers, we've seen all the soft drivers come in now, except for Lordy, who is somehow still on these soft tyres, and that must feel absolutely horrible. If you look on board, you can already see the graining on those soft tyres from the sunlight there, and they must just feel awful to drive at the moment. But the AlphaTauri seems to be doing a brilliant job to keep it at the moment.
Yeah, the gap now between himself and Jay Tyler is 90.3 seconds. He's lost about 2 seconds on this lap. There were all sorts of battles going on further down the field. We saw Sambam Kid get ahead of Powdy, who I think it's just been shoved off the racing line, and once that happens you start losing places to absolutely everyone. He's now got Jake getting ahead of him, so he's gone from 12th to 16th there as Ice Demon decides, I want absolutely no part of this, gets well out of the way. Fair play to him. They are fighting for position, so if he wanted to carry on, it would be well within his rights to do so. Lordy carries on for another lap. How much longer can he go on? He's the only human-controlled car, as we now see Ugi Azim, who has disconnected, unfortunately. He's the only human car to have stayed out on the soft tyres for that long, so he's doing a very good job of getting the tyre management. And Grumpy, he's just staying on the back of Jay Tyler. Yes, this will give him DRS, but this will be heating up those hard tyres, so is that worth the DRS, or will that cost him later in the race if he wants to get these to the end?
Well, not only that, the dirty air affects his cars and makes it very unstable, so sitting behind him will make him more prone to mistakes. And you know, just through there, probably a little bit of awkward corners through that chicane, and then obviously through these hairpins, it's going to be pretty easy to follow for him. But he's on the hard tyres, and you know, like I said, this is all about Jay Tyler really and how he does in this stint. He needs to get away as quickly as he can from Grumpy, because this is just showing to Grumpy that because Jay Tyler's on fresh mediums and he's on fresh hards, you know, if Jay Tyler isn't pushing away, Mr. Grumpy is going to be feeling very confident that he may win this race, because the guys ahead, who are obviously going to be going on to the medium tyres, such as Gamer, they're going to be the ones to threaten Mr. Grumpy. But because he's in that Red Bull and Gamer's in that Williams, and I talked about the whole dirty air thing, perhaps it could have a really negative effect on cars such as Greeny, Gamer, etc. trying to pass him at the end of the race.
Yeah, Lordy has just come into the pits and his teammates had a massive off there, trying to avoid a spinning JP Greenwood, who had a moment through that section of track through 12 and 13 earlier on. Lickle Blocks has gone flying into the wall. Doesn't look like he's actually got any severe damage on the car, and you can obviously damage the rears, or the rear wing on this game now, so very lucky indeed to get away with that one. I think Lickle Blocks at the moment, he has lost some places, as has JP Greenwood, unsurprisingly. And there we said about Lordy trying to go for this one stop. He has lost tons of time. He's a long way off the back of Game Freaker, and he's got Sam Bam Kid now going down the inside into turn 4. Thank you very much. Sam Bam Kid tries to take that position. Lordy's going to fight it back now on the cutback and stays ahead for now. All this battling, though, is costing these drivers a lot of time. They are now 5 seconds behind Game Freaker. And out of those that started on the soft tyres, you've got to say, it's only going to be Jay Tyler or Mr. Grumpy who are really going to be able to challenge for the victory.
Most certainly at the moment, these soft tyre drivers behind Mr. Grumpy and Jay Tyler, they've just disappeared, haven't they? They've seemed to disappear. Game Freaker is 3 seconds behind, and he's not really catching on Mr. Grumpy, which is rather surprising on fresh mediums compared to the fresh hards. You'd expect them to be closing. But Game Freaker just seems to not be closing as much as perhaps he would want. Lordy continues to battle Sam Bam Kid, but Sam Bam Kid seems to get by, and I think he will now be on a mission to get away. And I wonder if Jake Warrior will also be considering a move on Lordy, since Lordy's hards are very fresh still and probably not up to temperature properly. But near the front, there's a lot of battling going on. AMS, CRG Gamer, and Greeny. This could be a 3-wide moment here for all 3 of them, and goes defensive does AMS, and he actually keeps the position for both of them. Gamer attempts to go around the outside, but just doesn't have the grip there, and AMS has gone spinning, and he's had a Sebastian Vettel moment of 2018, I believe it was, where he spun the car at Bahrain. No, sorry, it was 2019, weren't it? Of course, when that happened, but AMS has had a big spin there, and that's cost him a lot of time. So Gamer now with Big C actually behind him. Where has he come from? Greeny's lost out so much time to Big C, so that's a bit strange. They seem to have a flip around, and Greeny has seemed to have lost a lot of time there.
Yeah, you'd imagine at this point in the race it'd be Greeny putting a lot of pressure on Big C, but no, he's nowhere near at the moment, and it won't be too long before he's got Jay Tyler and the others as Game Freaker gets ahead of AMS, who's trying to recover after that spin. Sam Bam Kid also managed to pass Lordy last time around, as well as there goes Greeny getting well out of the way, and I think that explains it. If the camera angle changes, did look like there was a missing end plate there. Front wing right end plate has completely gone off Greeny's car, so he's trying to hang on, I think, obviously, to try and make the one-stop viable strategy. Just so much understeer in that car. I wonder if he'll be heading into the pits this time around and thinking about how he can change his strategy. Maybe, just maybe, go soft towards the end of the race and have himself a bit of fun, as you have got to use, of course, 2 different types of tyres. It could be a bit of a stretch to get those mediums towards the end. AMS here is going to try and have a go back at Game Freaker, not able to get that move done, though, on the brakes on the older tyres. And in the lead, it's a driver who didn't realise he was racing until about 5 minutes before this race. Bugatti, 11 laps on the mediums, 5 seconds ahead of the battle for Gamer and Big C.
It's relatively clear as well. You'll be going on to the hard tyres relatively soon as well. So Bugatti has actually ended up in the lead, and he's put himself in a rather good position to win this race. And as I say that, he goes wide there at turn 10, so he's had to come back on the track in a very awkward fashion. But he wouldn't have expected to be this far ahead of his fellow medium and hard runners doing that alternative strategy. But he's fairly clear of Gamer at the moment, and he's just running his own race. And, you know, how far ahead is he of the leaders of Jay Tyler? Let's just have a look here. 8 seconds between him and Jay Tyler and Grumpy. So there's a bit of time there for Bugatti, and with fresh hards, you would expect once they're up to temperature, he may close into these front 2 and may be looking at a dark horse potentially to win this race.
Yeah, I think if he pitted now, he'd be coming out round about where CTI's team is in 12th position, but he will try and carry on for a few more laps. Here's the battle for second place. It's CRG Gamer and Big C. Big C with that 3-second time penalty. Sam Bam Kid and Lickle Blocks have joined him, as you can see Connor closes up there. Just not quite close enough as CRG Gamer snatches that front right tyre into turn 1. But Big C can't stay close enough through the final corners where it really matters, those medium tyres, definitely will have seen their best now, and you'd expect the hards of CRG Gamer to be the better ones. Further back, Jake just losing out slightly to Lordy and Sam Bam Kid just outside of the DRS zone now, and with 3 DRS zones on this track, I'd say Bahrain is probably...
Oh, Grumpy! Spin! Grumpy spun! So he's been on the back of Jay Tyler, and I think what has happened there is he's just caught the inside curb and has sent him into a spin, so his race has been completely undone. His hard work, and Jay Tyler now has a lot of clear air behind him, but ahead of him he is closing in on these two of Gamer and Big C now. So this is going to be an almighty battle between these three, I reckon, into this race. But before Grumpy there, he was also going to join that frame, join that battle, and now he's lost that position to Game Freak, and he's also behind AMS as well. So Mr. Grumpy probably a little bit rattled after that spin, but he will be looking to climb back as much as he can on Jay Tyler, and he's still not out of this race, because Jay Tyler, Game Freak, and all the people ahead of him will have to pit again. So technically he still will be in the net lead of this race once all those guys pit. So it's going to be a very interesting last few laps, I reckon, now, because Mr. Grumpy, losing all that time, has now probably left these guys who have got to come into the pits, especially onto medium tyres, with a good chance of victory. So we're looking in for a very entertaining last few laps.
Yeah, you took the word straight out of my mouth there, Sam. I was going to say, everyone ahead of Mr. Grumpy still has to come into the pit, so he's not in too bad of a position. Bugatti has pitted, as has AMS. Bugatti comes out in 10th place, 17 seconds behind Big C, but perhaps importantly, about 8 seconds behind Mr. Grumpy at this moment in time. And it is now Big C who is in the lead of this race, getting ahead of CRG Gamer on that last lap. And Jay Tyler is now on the back of these, and he'll be hoping that these cars get out of the way sooner rather than later. It won't be too long before we see Big C coming into the pits. I'd imagine it will be this lap. Might be a bit longer though before you see Gamer coming. He'll be wanting to go on to a few laps more, maybe even try and stretch it till around about lap 19, lap 20, and put on those soft tyres towards the end of this race. But it is Jay Tyler leading out of those that have come into the pits on those mediums, though he still has to make a stop, and you could just see him losing it ever so slightly in the dirty air over the curb. It is so easily done, as unfortunately my PlayStation has just decided to crash.
Wonderful. So we have no action for a little while. That is incredible, but to be honest with you, this is going to be a very interesting time for Jay Tyler. We've got Big C and CRG Gamer. You know what you've missed? You've missed a 3-wide moment between the three of them. They're still going 2-wide. Big C and Jay Tyler, and Gamer's back into the lead of this race. Big C in second place and Jay Tyler into third place. He'll have to go again. This is probably not what Jay Tyler would have wanted, is to be in this situation where he's got 2 cars to pass and they're both in DRS range of each other. So at the moment, this race is still starting to spice up, and I feel bad that your PlayStation has just decided to crash on you at a moment we're starting to get some real good battles at the front.
I mean, it's more worrying that it's a PlayStation 5 and not a PlayStation 4, so it's slightly worrying that has decided to go, but we are back with the action there, and it is now Gamer leading this race. I'm surprised Big C hasn't come into the pits yet. Is he trying to stretch those mediums to a soft strategy? It'll be very difficult to do so, I'd imagine.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is just stay in that DRS zone as long as possible. Once he's out of it, or once he's theoretically out of it, such as now perhaps, this is probably where he's going to pit this lap. And Jay Tyler, he is looking desperate behind that Alfa Romeo to get past him, making lunges at every single corner. That McLaren knows that Game Freaker is closing on him. He doesn't need to seem so desperate, but of course he will have to stop again. And it is important he has a big enough gap to Grumpy to catch up to him in the end. And Big C stays out again, you know, but he is out of the ERS. But so is Jay Tyler, but those medium tyres have aided that traction on the exit there. So Jay Tyler will slot himself into second place, and because of the drag of that Williams, I wouldn't be too surprised if by the end of this he is ahead of Gamer, but I don't think that's going to be the case, since he simply just ran out of a lot of ERS, so not able to close in.
Yeah, definitely. So not a bad job there by Jay Tyler. Now he's got to try and get ahead of the next car. Lordy still on the back of Sam Bam Kid. Probably not too far away. You see Sam Bam Kid have a massive slide there. That's definitely made it not too far away from where these hard tyres are going to be the preferable ones to be on compared to those mediums. Bugatti, who himself and Mr. Grumpy and Lordy and Jake, they're sort of the lead cars that we know definitely don't have to come into the pits again, as we have had another spinner, and that is AMS. Second time this race. He has gone round not too long after he's been into the pits. Manages to continue, though, without any damage in 17th place at the moment. And his teammate all over the back of Gamer now stuck in his dirty air through 12 and 13. Surely, even if Gamer doesn't come into the pits, he's losing the position on this lap.
Yeah, well, obviously it all depends on Jay Tyler's final corner here. If it's absolutely terrible, then Gamer will still come out in the lead. But it looks like he's waiting for the straight. He knows. It's common sense, really. He will get past Gamer and he will come into the lead. And Gamer actually surprisingly comes into the pits this lap, which I'm a little surprised about since he is on the hard tyres. But he's doing that hard-medium strategy. And if he wants to win this race, he does realise he'll need to come in early and make the most of the better, softer medium tyres that he'll be putting on. So they'll be much better for him in the closing stages of this race, but at the end of this race it could be a little bit difficult, and he's being held there. The camera angle doesn't tell me whether he's got wing damage or not, but I'm assuming that's the case. But he's been stuck there. He's been stuck there a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's some sort of game glitch, Joey. He's been stuck there an incredibly long time as CRG Gamer. He's still in the pits. This has absolutely ruined his race. CRG Gamer, I think, is well and truly out of this race. The timing screen seems to be doing all sorts of things on my end at the moment, but it is still Jay Tyler leading. Big C in second. How much longer can Big C take those medium tyres? Because if he was going onto the hards, I thought he would have come in by now.
Yeah, and I don't know where everyone is now. I think everyone's completely muddled up. What on earth is going on? I think Gamer's now got out of the pits. In fact, he's halfway around the track. So I have no idea what happened there, but yeah, Big C really should be coming in this lap, I reckon. He's on those medium tyres, so they look absolutely done. And you've got to think he's just lost 3 seconds. In fact, he's probably just about to lose the position to Game Freaker, who's just going to sit in behind. He knows he'll have DRS on this straight, even though obviously Big C, I reckon, surely will be into the pits in this lap. And there we go. Into the pits comes the league director. So Game Freaker has been let loose, and okay, Game Freaker's come into the pits as well, so never mind, he hasn't been let loose then in the end. So Mr. Grumpy has been let loose, and now it's up to Jay Tyler, who's 6 seconds clear of Mr. Grumpy, then to decide when he wants to pit. And when he does pit, will it be onto the mediums or the soft tyres? That is an interesting question, as Big C has chosen the soft tyres.
This is brave from Big C. He's done a fantastic job on getting that first set of tyres to last, and he's now gone out on a set of the softs. Gamer, I can confirm, didn't lose too much time in the pits. He's come out in 6th place, does not have to come into the pits again on those mediums. If we look at the top drivers, we're thinking it is only Jay Tyler now out of those top 9 drivers, you can say, that will have to come into the pits again. Greeny down the inside of Dino, using those fresher medium tyres. That is the Alfa Romeo. Now that he's got a new front wing, now that he's got those fresh mediums on, he's moving his way up the order. He is into 10th position. Then this race has had absolutely everything. We've had cars getting held in the pit lane when the shunts off. I think I've had Sam Bam Kid driving through the pit garages in a clear attempt to try and cheat his way around this circuit. And now we've got battles between drivers on 3 different types of tyres. Who knows who is going to win this race? Jay Tyler, surely just try and go on for another couple of laps and put on a set of softs, and then you'll be lightning quick at the end.
That's what I would think he would go for. You've got to think, if he doesn't pit this lap, for example, which he hasn't, Big C surely is going to get past him here, because obviously with those soft tyres being lightning, you can already see how quick they are. He's closing in, and I do expect once he does get onto a lap where he can set the fastest lap, so next lap, expect the fastest lap to come from the Alfa Romeo. So Jack Tyler, he may be in the lead, and he will have to pit again. Well, surely have to pit again. He's not going to go 21 laps on the mediums, I wouldn't have thought. He surely isn't going to stretch out too long, is he? Because he's got to catch in that gap. If he wants to win this race, he's got to catch in that gap to Mr. Grumpy again. And, you know, that's not going to be an easy or small gap to catch up to. So the Red Bull driver, Mr. Grumpy, he is in prime position to win this race. But what can Gamer do on these new fresh mediums, and also Big C on those softs? So who knows who could win this race still? It could still come down to the final lap.
It could do indeed. Big C's about 24 seconds behind at the moment as we've had another yellow flag, and I think that's AMS having his 3rd spin. Is able to continue, though, loses a position to JP Greenwood. I think if Jay Tyler pits on this lap, he's probably going to still have the lead of this race and might even be able to stretch it one lap longer, you know. He's not in too bad of a situation at the moment. Connor's gaining a few tenths on the car ahead of him at this moment in time, which is CRG Gamer, but he's not exactly flying up to the back of him at the moment. Game Freak is now about 2 seconds off the back of that Alfa Romeo, so they're not doing a bad job on the Williams at the moment, as there we go, Jay Tyler into the pits then. Red Walled soft tyres going onto this McLaren. Where is he going to come out relative to Big C? That puts Grumpy into the lead of this race, and if it wasn't for that spin, Mr. Grumpy would be so far clear at the moment. I think it'd be certain who's going to end up taking this victory. Jay Tyler's coming out the pit lane. We're on board with Big C. We should see a McLaren as the Alfa Romeo sets the fastest lap of the race. We should see a McLaren exit the pits there, and look how close it was. Jay Tyler just stays ahead of Big C. Now they've got to try and fight their way past 5 cars if they want to fight for the victory.
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult one. Of course, Gamer as well has got to do the same thing. Up ahead, he's closing in on Bugatti on those hard tyres. That one's going to be the most difficult one because the tyres are in the best condition for Bugatti, and then the rest of them, they're on rather worn hard tyres now, which will obviously be much worn come the end of this race. So this is going to be a huge charge from these 3 in particular. Jay Tyler and Big C will definitely be thinking about closing onto the back of the Williams of CRG Gamer, and obviously Bugatti as well, just holding his own in 4th place. He was someone we were saying who could possibly win this race, but obviously choosing the hard tyres towards the end, obviously he had to. Didn't work out exactly too well. Could he have done what Big C did, of course, and went onto the soft tyres there? Because he could have done a medium soft strategy and been probably still in 4th or 5th place, which probably would have meant he would have been the best candidate to win this race come the end of it.
Yeah, definitely, and I am wondering if it is just that lack of practice, as he was a late addition to the field. He's not been able to get used to what that car feels like and get used to the tyre wear of the Haas. Wouldn't surprise me if it's one of the worst on the game, and that is what's caused him problems. He's got CRG Gamer just outside of DRS range. He's got Jay Tyler and Big C just inside his DRS range, so it won't be too long before we've got a 4-way battle for 4th position, and Bugatti's going to have to drive the widest Haas in Formula 1 history if he wants to make any more positions up. Greeny and Dino coming into the pits there, so I wonder if there's been a bit of contact, and Ice Demon following them, as well as Jay Tyler almost looked to say he was going to have a go on CRG Gamer, but for this part of the circuit, it's single file only, and that's really going to cost him some time to Grumpy, Lordy, and Jake is... Oh! Jay Tyler's round, spins it on the curb. Any chances of a race victory lost with that mistake. He drops down the field into 8th position. That frees up a bit of pressure from Gamer, and that frees up Big C, but let's not forget, he does have that 3-second penalty.
Yeah, that's going to hinder Big C bad time. He's got Game Freak behind him, which obviously, in terms of the car that they're in, that Alpine is better than that Alfa Romeo, and Game Freaker, obviously, he'll be liking his chances. He's been with Big C really all this time, and on those medium tyres, those soft tyres will degrade much quicker than the mediums, and especially towards the end of the race, if he's still under 3 seconds, Game Freaker is going to be in a prime position to take that position from Big C. But look at CRG Gamer right now. He's right on the back of Bugatti. Now, if he wants to really go for a podium, because I think that is actually going to be the best result he's going to get today, he needs to get past Bugatti as quickly as possible. And I tell you what, it's probably one of the easiest moves he's ever had to make in a long time, just basically go past him on the straight. And Big C, he'll be pushing now to get past Bugatti quite quickly and try and build that gap to Game Freaker as well.
Yeah, CRG Gamer then up into 4th place. Bugatti, if he can hang on to the DRS of CRG Gamer, as he is doing at the moment, that might just help him defend from Big C, and that might allow Game Freaker to catch up to them. There's been another spinner further back. I'm not quite sure which car that is. I've got a funny feeling it could be the other Williams. Ash Best. Gamer's having a good race. Ash, not quite so at the moment. I don't think he's enjoying F1 2021 as he has done some of the other games. The youngest ever PSGL F1 champion way back in season 18. He is in 19th place at this moment. But if we ignore the disconnections we have still got every single car running in this race, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And although we're probably not going to get that battle for the lead that we wanted, with Mr. Grumpy 7 seconds ahead with 7 and a bit laps remaining, we are going to have an absolutely fantastic battle for that 4th place. CRG Gamer, Bugatti, Big C, and maybe even Game Freaker can just sneak onto the back of these guys.
Yeah, I reckon we will see Jake come under a bit of pressure from Gamer very soon. Gamer's just been closing and closing each lap, and on those medium tyres, they're not getting younger, but they definitely are still in a good position to find some pace on Jake Warrior in third place in that Red Bull. And one simple mistake from him or Lordy could completely compromise things. And you know, when you've got back markers like Juho Finn, they've got to get by. It could be a little bit of a distraction, particularly for Jake, who'd be coming through this middle sector now and meet that Mercedes driver. But look at Bugatti. He has stuck onto the back of Gamer. He's using this DRS quite well, is the Haas driver, to try and keep in this rightful position. But Big C is coming on those soft tyres, and you know, he will have the grip advantage most certainly out of turn 10, so he could be on a charge of Bugatti very, very soon. So watch out for Big C in these final laps, because he could be flying, and same with Gamer as well as he continues to close in on Jake.
Yeah, Greeny sets the fastest lap of the races. I think we've had another spinner. I think that's Sam Bamkid who's gone off coming out of turn number 7. So he stays in his 9th place for now. Big C just manning the DRS train, as we've seen so often on F1 games. Can't quite do anything at the moment. It's all going to be about getting that grip out of the final corner and hoping that Bugatti doesn't have it. But being stuck in the dirty air for so long on that set of soft tyres, by the end of this race, I don't think Big C's going to have the tyres left to do anything. Maybe about CRG Gamer. Who knows which way this battle's going to go. And like you said, they're now only 2.2 seconds behind Jake for that final podium position. A penalty for any of them could be absolutely costly, as Big C does get that better exit out the corner. He pulls out the slipstream. He's got a bit more ERS than the Haas car as well. Down the inside he goes. Should be able to retake the race in line before we get to the braking zone. Bugatti not able to fight back. That's the Alfa Romeo up into top 5. CRG Gamer is his next target, and I think he's got to get this move done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and look at the exit he's got. It's relatively good. He just doesn't really have the ERS to fight Gamer at the moment, and Gamer keeps it for the next corner. So he'll keep it for the next few corners, as there goes Juho Finn straight to the wall. And you know how we said we were going to get a fully clean race, and we're not going to count discounts.
Safety car. Well, I forgot that was turned on. We've got a full safety car. This changes everything, because Grumpy and all these cars could just come into the pits, put on a set of... Well, they've got to put on a set of soft tyres, otherwise there'll be a sitting duck at the end of this race. Juho Finn, the one and only retirement that we have had from this race. We've got cars already coming into the pits. There's the wreckage of the Mercedes. Hold on to your hats, people. We're going to have our own version of a sprint race here. We're going to have about 3 laps of full racing action. Cars coming in. Dino, fresh set of soft tyres coming on. CT Ice Demon follows him in. Both Aston Martins pulling off about as good of a double stack as you can do on this game. Onto those soft tyres. Grumpy's just coming around the final corner. He's going to have to come in as well. I wonder, these top 3 are coming into the pits. Gamer, will he stay out? Will Big C stay out on those soft tyres, or will they want to put fresh ones on?
That's the interesting dynamic we've got here, because obviously we're going to have some rather gambling decisions here. Gamer stays out. Big C comes into the pits. Bugatti has actually come into the pits ahead of Big C there. He's been more brave on the brakes and has actually been able to get ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver. But yeah, everyone into the pits then to change their tyres, except from Gamer and Game Freaker as well. So both the game names... they're both in the game, I suppose, not changing their tyres. They're now both at the front of the grid, and they're both going for glory, but they've got to fend themselves off from a charging Red Bull of Mr. Grumpy on fresh, soft tyres. But obviously, we'll only have limited laps as well. 3 or 4 laps of racing left, really, once the safety car comes in, and that is going to be insanely tough for Mr. Grumpy to get past both of these guys, let alone one.
Yeah, they're not going to have any DRS as well, I don't think, until maybe the final lap of the race, which is going to make things interesting. A few more cars are coming into the pits, so it was only, ignoring Azim and CC Brain, who did disconnect earlier on and weren't able to get back into the session, it's only Gamer and Game Freaker who have decided to stay out on their medium tyres, which will have fairly good grip at the moment, but they're going to have absolutely no grip compared to the softs of Mr. Grumpy, Lordy, Jake, Bugatti, Big C's penalty. And the same with Sam Bam, Greenies, Dinos and Lickle Blocks. Even more so costly now that the entire field has bunched up together. Grumpy, he's got the better tyres. So, in that way, he can afford to maybe be a bit patient. he's only going to have 3 laps to go. So he's got to try and get a move on as soon as possible. He can't afford to make any mistakes. Otherwise, what has been a fantastic performance, barring that one spin earlier, looks like it will all be for nothing if he does make a mistake. But surely he's going to go to get this win and prove why he was the PSGL champion way back, Season 1, F1 2010.
Oh, of course he will. I mean, if he sits behind, then, you know, that's not winning mentality. And no more will you find winning mentality than from someone who's won titles. He's won titles before. He knows how to win, and it may have been 11 years ago, but when you've got that winning mentality, you'll never lose it. So expect him to come right out the doors on Game Freaker. He's on those soft tyres. He knows he can get a good exit. If he can get a good exit of corners. He could be much better on his tyres. He could be more aggressive on his tyres as well. Those medium tyres are probably in much worse conditions than the soft tyres as well, let alone just the fact that those soft tyres are going to be more grippier and much better than the medium. So he most certainly will be on a charge, and he'll be looking to get past that Alpine as soon as possible, because if he leaves it too late, Gamer will clear off. He must get past Game Freaker quickly, and most certainly he mustn't fall without out of a second, because that last lap will be the DRS lap, and if he's out of a second then it's game over.
Yeah, I would imagine the safety car will come in on this lap no matter what. Dino's coming into the pits for, is that another set of soft tyres? I wonder if he just made contact with someone there. So this promotes some of those who've not had great races but have stayed on the lead lap, like Ashbest, for example, Lickle Blocks. It promotes them up the order ever so slightly, but they are going to have to get past the AI cars. I'm intrigued to see how CRG Gamer's going to play this restart. If he goes early, then Mr. Grumpy might be right on the back of Game Freaker. If he goes, I think he's got to leave it as late as possible to go, just to try and keep himself safe into turn 1.
Yeah, he's definitely going to leave it till the last corner. Like, he won't be gone till the exit that last corner. And the thing, this is what Gamer needs to perfect here. He needs to click his fingers as soon as it's the right time. He gets it wrong, he leaves himself well exposed. You look at previously with Valtteri Bottas, I think, at the Portuguese Grand Prix earlier this year. You know, he got completely caught off, and Max Verstappen overtook him to take it to second place and take it then to obviously Lewis Hamilton there, I believe. So if you get that restart wrong, whether you're first or second here, you are in a lot of trouble. So Gamer obviously will be looking to find the exact right moment to get through, as it looks like the safety car is going to stay out for one more lap here. So we are really going to be going down to a final lap showdown here, it looks like.
Yeah, final lap showdown. And I said back on F1 2010 they had no DRS. They're not going to have any for the final 2 laps of this race either, of course. So no DRS as the safety car just seems to speed up ever so slightly there. Let us know who you guys think is going to take the victory. Is it going to be Gamer? Will he be able to hold on as we get an Aston Martin? That's Ice Demon now coming into the pits. They seem to have been in the walls a bit today, the Aston Martins. That's 4 pit stops now for Dino, and I think a 3rd one for Ice Demon. They are having quite an interesting race. CRG Gamer, the only driver in the field to have done 1 stop. He looked like he might have a chance of getting a podium. Now with this safety car, looks like it could be win or bust for him now that he's stayed out. Likewise for Game Freaker. This is going to be so intriguing at the moment. Some people saying that Grumpy might take that victory. Imagine he's a slight favourite at the moment, but Lordy, Jake, Bugatti, some very quick drivers behind him. Jay Tyler, of course, what is he thinking after that spin earlier on? Will get ahead of Big C on penalties, but he knows that he had a chance of a victory. Maybe just threw it away ever so slightly. This should be fantastic.
Well, this has all the ingredients for some chaotic final battle, and we already talked about chaos. You know, it is a word we have used a lot for this, simply because realistic performance, all these guys are on different paces at different stages, well, of their career, you can argue, but all on different paces sort of thing. So we're about to see some real chaotic racing, and particularly when all these drivers are set to go flat out. You know, engine mode's up. Well, if they had engine modes, but it'll be up, but definitely ERS modes will be up. They're all on 100%. They've all been saved up. It'd be like watching qualifying, but racing in qualifying, basically. But the top 2, they are at such a disadvantage for their tyres, really, let's be honest. But, you know, the expertise of CRG Gamer, he knows what it's like to be at the front of a field, well, recently, and some people got penalties for severe collisions. I think that's Dino and Lickle Blocks. But safety car in this lap, this is where Gamer needs to capitalise.
Yeah, you can see how much he's weaving and trying to warm his tyres up at the moment. He's going to go out in the final corner, as we expected, leaving it quite late to put the hammer down as Greenwood and Greeny are coming together now. The battle of the greens. When is Gamer going to go? Leaves it extremely late there, and that has been an absolutely, well, as good as a restart as I think he could have got. Lordy has managed to get ahead of Mr. Grumpy here and might be able to get past some more cars. It's going to be free wide into the first corner, down the inside goes Lordy on. Game Freak and manages to get by that position. Grumpy's getting himself back involved in it as well, and they've both got past the Alpine car there, who's now having to defend from Bugatti. I think there's been a spinner further in the background. That's Greeny just trying to recover, but it is Gamer, Lordy, Mr. Grumpy, Game Freaker and Bugatti battling side by side. This has brought Bugatti back into things. It's been a disastrous restart for the Alpine driver. Jake flies past Big C, and Jay Tyler there up into 6th place as Grumpy is round again. There's action all throughout the field, but it is Gamer who manages to hold on to that restart. Lordy, I think he just called it absolutely well and was able to get that acceleration, out-drag Grumpy on the straight, and that could be the move that gets him the victory if, in the final 1.5 laps, he can find his way past the Williams driver, as that's Lickle Blocks in the other Alpha Tauri goes round coming out of turn 10.
Yeah, and just look how much grip Lordy has got just behind Gamer there. He found so much time through the corner. Look at Mr. Grumpy though, he just backs out there as Lordy breaks a lot later and almost into the back of CRG Gamer. You know he's right on the edge of those medium tyres. You could just see it. He goes defensive. Here comes Lordy though. Is he going to make himself space ahead of Mr. Grumpy? No, he doesn't. Gamer defends it quite well, but Lordy gets to switch back and takes the lead of this race. But here comes Mr. Grumpy. He's coming through. This is a last-ditch effort for him, surely. He's got to send it on Lordy this lap. He's got a few more opportunities. Is he going to take it to the first corner? He goes for it, but he's just not close enough to get a move done. But Gamer tries actually to go up for it on Mr. Grumpy. It doesn't work. Now he's got Bugatti behind him, who's going to be chasing the Williams driver just behind. But this is still not over, as AMS is out. He's had a final spin for today.
Yeah, I saw him spearing off towards the wall there, as here comes Bugatti, gets a much better exit coming through turn number 4 than CRG Gamer, who's fighting for all it's worth, but he's just not got the grip at the moment to hold on. Down the inside goes to Haas, slight lock up, but manages to get that position. Bugatti up into 3rd, that's Big C, I think, who's had a slight moment as well. He drops down the field, so he's definitely out of this race. It has been a bit of a return to forget in the end, but here we go. Final few corners of this track. Is there anywhere where Mr. Grumpy can get this position? He's all over the back of Lordy. Just very difficult to overtake at this point of the circuit. He's going to have to rely on a bit of a mistake. Jake picking up a very last-ditch penalty then. That's going to drop him behind Jay Tyler, who is very close to the back of the Red Bull driver. The other Red Bull driver is very close to the back of the Alpha Tauri. One final shot maybe into the final corner. It looks like Lordy's just saved enough ERS to manage to hold on to take this victory as Grumpy nearly goes into the back of the Alpha Tauri. He's made a mistake. This is going to be a straight drag race towards the line. Who's got enough pace? Who's going to take the victory?
He's got it.
Grumpy takes the win. 300ths of a second. Lordy in second. Bugatti rounds out the podium. Game Freaker, as Powdy's had a huge crash in the background. Game Freaker managed to get CRG Gamer on the line. What a fantastic end to the race that was, and it's Mr. Grumpy, somehow the man from pole position, in all the chaos, all the pit stops, that late safety car. Mr. Grumpy, original champion, he's still got it. He takes the bow, he takes the victory.
Wow. Last second. You couldn't have think something more last second than that. Like, I'm still debating whether he actually won that race. It was so close, that finish. It was literally a photo finish. If you ever had to describe a photo finish. And wow. I mean, Lordy, you know, he had one more corner. I think he may have had a slight tap to the rear end and that put him off or something. But Grumpy really didn't give up till the final corner. But not even the final corner. Literally the line itself. And that is just a true showing of a champion right there. Like, don't give up till it's over. It's not over till it's over. And he's got it. And he's got it by 300ths of a second. And I'm sure that was probably much closer. But you've been measuring the difference between their front wings when they come across the line. It would be around like at least like 2 or 3 millimeters. It'd be absolutely tiny. And wow. I can't believe that finish, honestly. That was insane.
I think Mr. Grumpy had about 10% more ERS, and that has made all the difference in the end. He takes the victory, 300ths of a second ahead of Lordi. Bugatti, great job from him to come from 13th into second place. Game Freaker finishes in 4th. He was the lead car. Gamer in 5th. Just so much happening at the end of that race, all caused by the late safety car. It looked like Mr. Grumpy had it in his hands, looked like it was straightforward for him. Lordi looked safe in second. Might have been a bit of a battle for third place between Gamer, Jake, and Big C, but then it all just kicked off.
Yeah, it really did. And you know, when they restarted, Gamer basically turned it into basically another start. It was like it had actually been a red flag and not a safety car. They were all everywhere. All the cars just seemed like they've come from a standing start, and you know, there was action. There was side by side battles all throughout the field, at the front, at the back, in the middle. It was everywhere, and you know, you didn't know who was going to come out on top really from the end. And when Lordi got past Game Freaker, and then obviously got past Gamer from that as well, and obviously Grumpy as well. You know, you would have thought, yeah, he's got this in the bag. The last lap, he was ahead. He's got this in the bag. He's got it done. But Grumpy didn't give up till the final corner. He gave it a right go into the last corner. Didn't quite get it, but a slight bit of oversteer on the exit for Lordi. As, of course, the pressure had got to him at that point. There's been so much pressure put on him on that final lap from a closing Red Bull behind him. And it finally happened in the final corner. And Grumpy, like I said, last second stuff, there was... If that line was a couple of meters closer, that was Lordi's victory for the taking. And you know, what a finish! I don't think we'll ever see a closer finish in PSGL. I wonder if one day we'll have some of these sort of videos that come up, like, you know, top 10 closest finishes sort of thing from PSGL, and this will have to be number one. And I don't think something like this will ever be beaten if there is something that comes out like that.
I think to paraphrase Sir Alex Ferguson, league racing. Bloody hell. That was pretty dramatic, and hopefully the full PSGL season, once season 29 gets underway, gives just the same amount of drama. Not too long to wait now before you will find out the placements. The PC placements will be getting announced on Thursday. Those for the PlayStation side of things will be announced just not too long after that. And then the first races will come 12th of August at Bahrain. That will be the first full league races. Thank you so much for Sam for joining me in the commentary box. Thanks to all the drivers who took part. Thanks everyone for watching. Although before we go, we have actually managed to get a couple of drivers have just popped into the commentary box, so we might as well get a few interviews going. And we're going to start off with the man who managed to sneak a podium at the end of that race. It is Bugatti. Absolutely fantastic race from yourself, trying to do that alternate strategy. Just couldn't quite manage to get the victory at the end, but you must be glad with how you did, especially considering it was so late when you knew you'd be racing.
Yeah, it was a very... Well, I don't know if you can hear me. I've never done this before.
We can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Yeah, it was a good race. I mean, called in at the very last minute, so an unexpected result. My first proper race with no line as well. So yeah, I'm very pleased, and a chaotic but fun race.
Quite a tough car, I imagine, the Haas to do a race with no line in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using it in co-op, so maybe that really helped me today. But yeah, it's definitely not the cream of the crop on the F1 grid, but you know, I dragged it to a podium, so a good day.
Yeah, and what are your plans for league racing for the F1 2021 game? I imagine, of course, going for no line, you're hoping to get yourself in some of the top tiers.
Yeah, well, last game I tried it, but I wasn't very quick. This game I've stuck to it, and I think I found a decent pace, so probably a lower no assist tier is what I'm hoping for this season in PSGL. But you know, on the pad, never going to get to esports on the pad, but you know, hopefully just have some fun.
Yeah, and it definitely looked like you have had fun tonight. Sam, do you have any questions for Bugatti?
No, there's no questions for tonight.
Well, I'll let you head off then. Congratulations on that podium.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And the man who, until the results came up, I thought was going to take the victory in that race. It is Lordi MK. Lordi's just headed off. Unfortunately, he seems to be. Hopefully, we can get him back in. Lordi, can you hear us? Does seem to be having a few few technical issues. We'll talk a bit more about that race while we wait for Lodi to hopefully sort things out. It was great to see the different mix of strategies as well. Sometimes drivers tend to go for the same things, but we saw 2 stops, Connor trying medium soft 1 stop, and a lot of the field obviously going hard to mediums or hard to softs with a 1-stop strategy. It was great to have that mix, and that did make it pretty unpredictable. It did look like we were going to have a great battle between Gamer, Connor, and Jake, all on a different strategy for that final podium place.
Yeah, well, I was very intrigued because I was wondering if Connor actually would have made it to the end on those softs, because that's not a strategy you would think about around Bahrain, the medium soft strategy. Like, that is a very risky strategy if you go off last game's standards. And, you know, I was kind of surprised when he came onto the soft tires, but he held it out on those mediums for a long time. So, you know, I was thinking he wouldn't go onto the hard tires, would he? But he went onto the soft tires. But we look at the drivers who started on the softs. You know, the latest one to come in actually was Lordy, of course. And that was around lap 8. So the tires were only like 11 laps old. So surely at that point, they were reaching puncture territory. So I tell you what, that would have been interesting if Big C would have made that race on those soft tires. I'm not too sure. It would have been interesting to see how that would have played out, to be honest.
Yeah, it would have been good to see. We'll try and get Lordy in once more. Hopefully he's sorted out with the issues. Lordy, can you hear us? Doesn't look like we're going to be able to speak to the second place man, unfortunately. What a great performance it was from him and from our winner, Mr. Grumpy, as well. And that is it for this stream. Thanks again to Sam, thanks to all the drivers, and thanks to you guys for watching. Make sure to check out the PC placement stream on Thursday night. But for myself and Sam, thank you once again, and goodbye.